beautiful. Now, I have one of my favorite humans, probably my favorite human.
Wow.
My favorite human on the planet with me on the MA couch today. This man needs no introduction. He's my gorgeous husband, Nick Broadhurst. So welcome back to the couch. It's so good to have you here.
Somewhat familiar, this couch.
It's our couch.
It is.
So since I last interviewed Nick for his debut single, Little Lover, I have been inundated with requests to have you back. People have been so fascinated with you and our relationship together, so I thought it would be beautiful to bring you back today to chat about your creative process and have a little bit of a creative masterclass together, because you're a very incredibly creative person and I want to share your insights with the tribe. We've also got something really exciting to share with you guys, which is the behind the scenes of Little Lover, Nick's debut single. And in that you get to see the whole creative process, which is, for me, one of the most fascinating things. Like, we can see these works of art and we forget just how much has gone into that process of creating that. So you guys are in for a real treat. So I just want to welcome you back.
You know, it's really funny. I was getting distracted looking over there because I just realised the director of Little Lover he was just on the balcony just there.
How funny. Give him a little wave.
I will. Hi, James. So strange.
So strange. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here, and I hope I can share some cool insights for the tribe.
Now, what I really wanted to talk to you about today was creativity, because something that I hear a lot, and I'm sure you hear it too, is people say to me, I'm not creative, or I don't have a creative bone in my body, or my parents weren't creative, so I'm not creative. But I personally believe that everyone is creative. Everyone has the ability and the capacity to be creative. And when we suppress our creativity, it manifests in our body and needs to be expressed. It needs to be expressed. The more we suppress it, it's just kind of like waiting there to bubble up and explode. It needs to be expressed, and we need an outlet. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it reminded me of probably the best example of that. There was a well-known art student who was rejected from a prestigious art school, and that was his real passion, was to be an artist. And that rejection hit him really hard, and he ended up going off and creating World War II and the Holocaust. So, you just think like creativity and that inner essence that drives you, it's incredibly powerful. And if you suppress it, who knows where it can take you. It did it to me for many years, and I spoke about this in our last interview, how the suppression of the one thing I wanted to do the most, which was music, really damaged me physically, emotionally, spiritually. It was incredibly hard to get back from. It took me years to get back from that place. And creativity is an incredibly powerful force. And in fact, creative energy is what really runs this whole place, the world.
So for those people who haven't watched the other video that
Sure.
where I interviewed you, can you tell everyone what happened when you suppressed your creativity? First of all, tell them why you suppressed it, and what happened to you, just in a nutshell.
Sure. I was in a band called Sneaky Sound System, and we'd had a lot of success. I decided that I should get a real job.
A real job?
What
is a real job? What's a real job? Can you please tell me what a real job is?
It's the most stupid saying ever, a real job. So I left something I loved. And admittedly at the time, it was great, it was successful, but it wasn't ultimately mine. I was one of the founding members, but it wasn't my baby. So there was some challenges there anyway, but I would have been a lot happier doing that than...
The real job?
The real job, which was real estate, which I took the same amount of passion and energy into that, and it achieved great things in that role. But ultimately, the suppression of what I wanted to do most almost killed me, literally almost killed me.
Put you in hospital.
Put me in hospital, and I had 3.5 year recovery. And my body just yelled at me that I was on the wrong path. And I abused myself emotionally, spiritually, and physically in a role, in a job that wasn't for me. I pushed. I should never have. I think pushing is never a good thing. You try and attract, don't try and push. And just lived a lifestyle that wasn't, it was so imbalanced on so many levels. And yeah, I just went down this pretty dark path, and yeah, it almost killed me.
So what would you say to those people who say, I don't have a creative bone in my body, or my parents aren't creative and I'm not creative? What would you say to those people, and how can they start to explore their creative energy? Because like you said, we all have this creative energy within us, and we need to let it out. So what would you say to those people?
I think we have to redefine creativity and bring some looseness, some fluidity to that definition, because it's very easy to build up what you believe creativity looks like in your own head when it can mean something totally different. I'll give an example where I'm currently producing a film, which we can talk about actually, because there's different parts of that film which involve creativity on a different level. But my attorney and executive producer on that film, David, he is incredibly creative in the way that he raises money. It is a creative process. It's like sitting with a maestro and watching him weave this incredible tapestry of incredibly complex layers that only his brain could think of. And that's creativity. So I think we have to be real, and he loves it. He's in that moment. He's totally in flow. And I think even just looking at that example, we can really loosen up our definition of creativity, and you can start to look at your life and find moments where time tends to almost stop and you get in this rhythm and flow where you don't even know what happened, but something remarkable happened. And I think those moments of flow are a really good indicator of when you're in one of your creative genius zones. It doesn't mean you have to write music or paint or draw or anything like that. Be a great architect. It's not about that, I don't think. I think it's about being in a state of flow.
I think that is a really beautiful and potent point. So for me personally, I get in that zone where time just evaporates and everything stands still, and I lose hours when I'm cooking in the kitchen. I just get into this total zone. You can call it the flow, whatever. I also get like that when I'm on the yoga mat. I also get like that when we're hiking. You lose complete track of time. But I think that's really important to redefine your definition of creativity. It doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't have to be an artist or a musician or a writer or a painter. It can be in the kitchen. It can be the way you fold the sheets. It could be, the way you do the gardening or pulling weeds or whatever it is. So that is a really important point. Please redefine creativity on your own terms.
Yeah, relax around it, and don't feel like it has to look a certain way. That person's so much better at, what are they called, mandalas?
Mandalas, yeah.
You can tell I'm married. Yeah, I think it's a really, really important point. I hadn't thought of that before we just spoke about it, but it feels like even just saying it, how true it is. And everything you just mentioned then, from cooking to gardening to hiking to folding the sheets, the one big distinction in all those things is to get in a state of flow of doing any of those things, you actually have to consistently do them and consistently show up and do them, which I think is, you're probably going to ask me about that, I'm sure. Let's take cooking, for example. I've always loved cooking. I wouldn't say I've always been a good cook, but I kind of feel like the better cook I become, the more complete person I am.
Yeah.
It's become almost like this barometer of where I'm at in life, because the better I get at that in the kitchen here, I feel more complete as a human being, because I don't use recipes. I can literally get into a state of flow in the kitchen where something comes out, and you always sort of laugh when we sit down and have dinner because you don't know where it comes from, and nor do I. But in that moment, all those things just made sense, and I think that's just because I've showed up, and I was essentially a single dad for many years, so I just had to do it. And so I thought, well, let's make it interesting, let's make it fun and good, and I just got better and better at it. Yeah. And
it's how you do those tasks, the gardening, the cooking, the folding of the sheets, those seemingly meaningless tasks, is a good reflection of where you're at in life. Are you someone who gets in the kitchen and is just like whack together, no love, no care, quick, fast, easy? What does that say about you as a human being? Where Nick, when he gets in the kitchen, it's like a meditative, slow dance, and I'm not joking. It really is. Like,
slow or meditative?
Well, it's both. Like, it's like you're in a transcendent state where it's like a meditation, or like qigong. You know what I mean? It's like,
sure, it's like Tai Chi.
It's like Tai Chi. Like, you're just like moving, and you kind of almost don't want to get in his way. And he's putting all these things together, and it's just like this beautiful creative process. And I can see he's in his zone of genius. I can see you're in your zone of genius, and it says a lot about you as a human being. It really does. And just the way that you approach those seemingly meaningless, non-creative tasks. You see them as...
The way you chop a vegetable and
exactly.
And how much love and attention you put into making sure I don't even know what the technical term is, doing little cubes of carrots.
Yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes he gets angry at me because they're not perfect cubes of carrots.
I think angry might be a slight exaggeration.
Slight exaggeration.
I'll give you some pointers.
Yes.
Darling, perhaps you might want to just take a bit more time with that.
A bit more love. Pour a bit more love into it, he says to me. Pour a bit more love.
Slow down, baby.
But it's so true. It's, those things that we kind of just push to the side that they're not meaningful are a great way to flex our creativity muscle.
Yep.
Because I love what you mentioned before. It's about continuously showing up, not just showing up on Wednesdays and Fridays and then praying and hoping to be really creative. It doesn't work like that. That's like saying, I'm only going to go to the gym on Wednesdays and Fridays and I want a six-pack. Like, it doesn't work like that. You've got to continuously show up every single day. If you want to master your mean girl, you've got to do it every single day. If you want a tight booty, you've got to do your squats every day. If you want to strengthen your creativity muscle, it's something that you have to show up for and you have to practice every single day. Do you agree?
I do, with the one caveat on that, which would be every day can sound arduous in the sense that, is it all day? Is it an hour? Is it 10 minutes? One thing which I found interesting for my music is when I consistently show up, even if some days I just don't have a lot of time due to other things such as the film, as long as I do, even if it's 5 minutes, and I just sit down and you see what happens sometimes. I might just sit down and then there's this whole song in 5 minutes. And if I didn't sit down, that song would never have come. In fact, Little Lover came when there was some cooking going on in the kitchen, and I literally just sat down, played two notes, and then there's this thing came out in 5 minutes. I recorded it on my iPhone at the time, so I had this sort of, that's interesting, I should probably maybe release that one day. It'd be really interesting to hear. It sounds terrible, but it was a rough sketch of what the song was going to be like. And just because I sat down for those 5 minutes, I didn't even play much longer than that, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. But that entire song, which was my first single, came from that moment of just showing up.
Beautiful. And I love that. I love that you've defined that. It doesn't have to mean sitting down for 3 hours.
Grinding. It doesn't have to be a grind.
No. It could just mean sitting down for 5 minutes. That's it. So that's a great segue into the next thing that I wanted to talk to you about was the creative process. Because I know for me as an author, when I first started writing my book, I read a lot of brilliant authors and brilliant writers' creative processes and what they did. And, there was some that would write from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. with a bottle of red and the TV playing a movie in the background. And I was like, well, maybe my creative process needs to be like that. And then some other authors who, you know, would wake up and they'd write straight away, and they, you know, would only drink coffee and they'd write from 5 a.m. till 10 a.m. and, you know, all these different things. And then I stopped reading everyone else's creative process because I kept on comparing myself to their creative process. And what I realized is that everyone's creative process is different and unique, and we need to find what works for us. So for me personally, I have like 4 things that are imperative to get me in my creative genius state. And the first one is find a space. So whether that space for me is going to be on our balcony or on the kitchen table or in our little man's room or down at the park, I find a comfortable space that I'm going to be comfortable in for maybe the next 2, 3, or 4 hours. When I was writing my book, I was on a beautiful property, and I had, you know, 30 acres where I could go and explore, and it was just beautiful. But I'd find a different spot each day where I could sit and be comfortable for potentially 3 or 4 hours. So that's the first thing I do. The second thing that I do is I remove all distractions. So my phone is always on silent, and it's in another room, and I leave it out there. I then pause my inbox, which is an amazing app that you can get, pause inbox, and I close down all the tabs on my computer. And when I was writing my book, I took the internet off my computer so that I wasn't distracted. I wasn't going to be distracted. So that's really important. Close the door if you need to. Tell the people in the house or your office that you don't want to be interrupted unless it's an emergency. But that's really important, is to remove all of the distractions. The third thing is taking breaks. When I was writing my book, you saw my process. I would sit, and the only time I got up was to fill up my water or go to the bathroom. I was just in my zone, and I didn't want to break that. I didn't get up and go and check my phone, because if I did that, it kind of took me out of my flow state. So it's really important to schedule little breaks, and you'll know when you need them. You'll start getting like really uncomfortable, and you'll be like, right, okay, I need to move or something. And you know, you could jump on a rebounder, or you could just go and get some fresh air or something like that. But it's really important to take some breaks. And then the fourth thing for me is just sitting your butt down. You want to get into the creative process. The hardest thing is actually sitting your tush on your chair and just showing up. Showing up to that blank white page, or whatever it is, the blank canvas, or whatever your creative thing is that you're doing, just showing up. So they're my 4 little tips of how I get into my creative flow. Again, you've got to find what works for you and really stay true to that. Don't compare yourself to my creative process, because what works for me may not work for you, but those little 4 tips are really helpful for me.
And you've got to have the space for it too.
The space is in the space in your calendar?
Yeah, you had consciously created that space.
Exactly.
So it's very hard for a lot of people to have that much time carved out. So if you can't do that much time, then, you know, just be realistic about it. And even if it is half an hour in the evening, carve it out, and you'll be amazed how much better you feel.
Absolutely. And schedule that into your calendar. I find if you just go, oh yeah, all right, you're never going to do it. Like, put it in your calendar, writing time or painting time, or whatever your thing is, music time, put it in your calendar. And if you block out an hour or you block out 20 minutes, whatever it is, just put it in there. And then that way you're more likely to show up. But I want to hear how you get into your creative process. Do you have any tips? Do you have any tricks? Like, what do you do to get into your zone of genius?
I'm going to just do one little thing. The perfectionist in me noticed your hair touching your microphone. So it looks like I'm staring at your boobs.
He is.
But I'm looking... You maybe just move it in the middle of your dress. Because I'm thinking if they're going to be getting all that rustling, it'll be really annoying. I hope that improved the audio for you.
Thanks, darling.
I was listening, but I was looking down. It looked a bit sort of creepy, so just wanted to
He's creepy.
fix that up. I think the most important thing that I've learned is, and this was said to me by one of our teachers, Barbara Ram, he said one of the hardest journeys to make is the journey from here to here, which is essentially the path of enlightenment. It's not very long, but it's bloody hard. And generally, I can't think of a time where something really good has come up, has bubbled up creatively when I'm in my head. It's generally come up when I'm here. There has been times where I've written lyrics where I've been, I'm going to say in my head, but possibly not, because I was upset and angry at one point when I wrote one song. But perhaps that connected me to something else. But I think getting into your heart space is really important, because that, for me, is where all creativity sits. And the more you can expand that, I know it sounds super esoteric, but there are practices you can do which help with that. For me...
Like what?
Well, for me, it's the power of the morning routine. In fact, I did a Snapchat yesterday saying, I'm like, oh, for God's sake, like, I've got a morning routine and I didn't do it today. No wonder my day fell to shit. And it did, because I just woke up and we had a late night because we went to late, being like 10 o'clock.
That's late for us.
It's really late. We went to dinner and then we went to a Matt Corby concert, which was great because it's inspiring. But I woke up later than usual, 7, and usually 5:45, and just didn't do my thing, and then my day just didn't flow. So I think to activate that state of flow, you have to, I just don't know how you can do it without some sort of morning practice. And I know that every musician and every architect and every artist will have a different way. But for me personally, that's how I can sort of almost guarantee that I'll get there and have almost like an insurance policy over my creativity process. So that for me involves, first of all, doing some yoga. And the yoga is really spiritual as opposed to physical.
Moves.
Very much in the tradition of the eight limbs of yoga, with the asanas being one of those 8 limbs, and it's just preparing me for the meditation that's coming. And I start by literally just sitting in lotus and closing my eyes and doing a series of things, which is actually the 8 limbs, to get into here. And once I feel I'm here, then I start doing asanas, the poses, for 10 minutes. It's not a big process, 10, 15 minutes. And so that for me is a way of just loosening up and connecting here. And I always find, like, every time I really get in there, my days are so much better. And then that just opens up a much more juicy meditation where I can get out of here because I've already connected somewhat to here. So for me, that's the first point, which I would say it's so easy to use generalizations like a non-negotiable, but I'm human. Like, I don't do it every morning. I would do it 90% of the mornings and maybe 70% of the afternoons as well. I'm not going to say non-negotiable because I think it's unrealistic sometimes, and it's really good to try and be non-negotiable with stuff, but if you miss something, let it go and do it next time.
At least, though, I want to just expand on that. Using the term non-negotiable, I feel, is okay because it's kind of saying that my intention is there.
Yeah.
But I'm not, like, holding on, like, if I don't do it, that's okay too.
It's like, I'm not going to eat chocolate. I'm not going to eat chocolate. And you eat chocolate, you're like, I hate myself.
Yeah, exactly. It's about being soft.
Yeah, not extreme.
Exactly.
Yep.
So continue.
So I think, that's the first thing. And one of the things which, without fail, gets me into a really good space is walking. I mean, I just think...
In nature.
Yeah, even just walking down to the park and just going for a walk. Certainly not a treadmill. But just walking through Potts Point, walking just anywhere. It just really, there's something about walking. In fact, there's a book called Daily Rituals, which we actually read a bit of it in Noosa that time, actually, when you were writing Mastering a Mean Girl from memory. And I would read one ritual from one person each night.
Yep.
And many of these people might have been around 100 years ago, you know, so they're quite old, or even Mozart and this sort of stuff. And I found it really interesting. I reckon the most common thread between all of them was walking, for sure. And we're talking about entrepreneurs and successful people. And I do want to say, in terms of defining creativity, entrepreneurial skill is absolutely creativity, because it's, you know, it's a beautiful thing when you can do it well. So don't, again, just business can be super, super creative. But walking is a beautiful thing, and putting headphones on and hearing a song, which I aspire to create that. If you want to, not to create that song, but to reach that sort of height. A great one for me at the moment, which I love to tell people about, is The Wheel by Son, S-O-H-N.
We can put a link below the video.
Yeah, it's just, you know, it's, maybe not everyone loves it as much as I do, but for me, it's an example of, oh, I wish I made that, you know. But when I hear it, it just makes me go home and sit at the piano and just start to write something.
You use it as inspiration.
I use it as a launch pad. So I think walking, listening to music, and generally kind of unplugging. And it's kind of dangerous now, because we've just got into Snapchat and we're a bit slow.
Late to the party, you could say.
But it's kind of addictive. And that's where the introvert in me becomes more of an extrovert, because I'm allowed to just muck around and be myself. But unplugging is really important, having moments where you're just not plugged in, you're not checking your phone, you're not doing these things. I think listening to music is different to that. So I think walking is really important, and generally just being healthy.
What does being healthy mean? Because that can look different for everyone.
Yeah, it's a tough one, because everyone's got different challenges. Everyone's got different time constraints, different budgets, different everything, different body types, different demands. There's mothers who have different demands to a single 20-year-old. I think you just need to, it's very, very hard to define that. If I was to define it physically, I would say there's certain things you should be able to do physically as a basic level of fitness, you know. For example, we should all be able to lift something relatively heavy without breaking our bodies when needed, like an emergency. We should all be able to sprint occasionally, once a week maybe, because that's what would happen in nature. We should all be able to walk long distances without any trouble. Just basic things like that, I think, is a starting point. But we all know inside when we're doing the right, I don't want to say right or wrong, we all know that when we're doing something which goes against our intuition or instincts for our own well-being and health, it just doesn't feel good. For example, I was just about to tuck into was it a beetroot brownie or something?
Yeah, some
and
cake
it's a
that
healthy
I got
one.
given.
There's nothing wrong with
It's
it.
raw, vegan, gluten-free, sugar-free, something that someone gave me.
And sounds great, but for me personally, that actually is kind of like kryptonite for me, because anything sweet just really, it just kind of doesn't work. I work much better on a ketogenic style diet, where I just have very, very little carbohydrates and sugars. So I took a bite and I stopped, didn't I? And I spat it out, because I knew I was going to feel crappy. I know that sounds really anal, but for me, I've learnt the lessons. I know what makes me feel good. I know what fuels my body really well. And at lunch, I had wild salmon on a salad, and I know, with lots of olive oil, and I know that fuels me and it makes me feel good, and I just sometimes have to stop. And I'm not perfect, far out. I overeat sometimes, I have too many desserts. I do it, you know, I'm a human being. But if you can just catch yourself in those moments where you just know you're going against your instincts, to me, that's just the starting point for creating better health. Yeah, and moving your body and being connected to your spirit as well.
Yeah, so there's so many great things in there. Yoga, meditation, walking, listening to music. What else did you say?
I think learning about health, like for me, I could never have arrived on what served my body best without actually just doing the research myself and without experimenting. I'm like a walking test tube of experiments. I'm a biohacker, really. I've tested everything in my body because I wanted to get to a state of peak performance. I've still got a long way to go in some respects. I reckon I'm probably operating at about 85%, you know, but I feel good, but I always want to improve. But I've figured out that a high fat, moderate protein, low carbohydrate diet really floats my boat. You know, I'm just like this all day. I used to eat pasta and bread and all that sort of stuff, and I was just like a complete mental case. falling asleep, and it wasn't without the experimentation that I figured it out, and it took me years. So I think have fun experimenting. Don't judge yourself too much in the process. Just know it's not going to be a quick process. Give yourself years. Just say, by 2020, I kind of want to know where I'm at with my diet, you know, because it changes seasonally. For women, it's different all the time, different time of the month. If you're getting pregnant, like, it always changes. But I think health is really, really important, because when I feel good in my body, I just produce better art.
So important. It's very challenging when you feel sluggish or tired or just gross. And
I've got a good tip, actually.
Yes.
I posted it on Snapchat today.
What is that? Oh God. Oh God.
I know this sounds kind of gross.
Please don't go there.
And kind of weird. I've got to say it. I have to.
All right.
I don't know how to say it. Seriously, every single person needs to shit more.
Yep, he went there.
I went there. Do you know why? Because if you walk past an alleyway and there is a dumpster, such an American saying, there's a big bin, and it's full of rubbish and it's been out for a few days, it's going to have bugs and flies and rats, and it's going to attract dis-ease, you know, and that's what our bodies are like. We are literally walking dumpsters.
Dumpsters.
This is our dumpster here, you know?
Yeah.
And it's really, really important that dumpster gets cleaned properly. I cannot tell you enough, like, when I am not feeling like everything's moving smoothly, I just do not operate anywhere near as efficiently, because the toxins recirculate through the body.
Exactly.
So whatever you can do to really improve that, it's called the biliary cycle, I think, where everything's moving beautifully and moving out easily. I know it's not something you'd expect from a musician and a businessman to start talking about, but honestly, it is so important. I think going once a day or once every 2 days is like kryptonite for everything. And so whatever you can do to start working on that process.
Well, it just is an indication that things are flowing smoothly.
And you just feel so much better. It's unbelievable. There's actually a process that happens when you do go, when you have a bowel movement, that actually indicates it, what's the word, activates a response in the brain, which is a pleasure response. And it's kind of addictive, apparently.
Yeah.
So, okay, really weird. I'm sorry about that, but I think it's a good tip.
Well, it's, like I said,
it's part of the health.
It is an indication that you're healthy and that things are flowing smoothly, and that there's literally
getting into flow.
Exactly. So it's really important that, you know, if you want to be creating your best work, that your health is in order, whatever that means for you, just so you can feel, you know, really well and vital. When I know for me personally, like when I'm feeling sluggish, like when I'm on my moon cycle, I'm not feeling creative. Like I just want to nurture and love and just look after myself, and I want to go inward, and I want to retreat, and I want to just stay in bed a little bit longer, and I don't want to be out and be all, you know, shiny, and I just want to stay in my trackies with my hair in a bun. And then there's times where, you know, I'm feeling really vibrant and open, and then my creativity flows so much more effortlessly. So there's so many great points in there that we can take away and really start to experiment with ourselves. You know, take that list of things that Nick shared and I shared, and start to just, okay, well, what would happen if, you know, I created my own morning routine to see how that felt, to get me in my little zone of genius. I'm exactly the same. If I don't do my morning routine, I literally set myself up for a blah day. I really do. It's when I take the time to do those things for myself in the morning. And, you know, we have our beautiful son that we have, you know, 50% of the time. And the weeks that we have him, we have to get up at 5:30, sometimes 5:15, so that we can do those things. You know, there was a time where we were getting up at like 4:30 so that we could do all of these things and really nurture ourselves. And we did it because we wanted to and because we loved the way it made us feel. And then there's times where we can sleep in a little bit more and we don't have to get up till 6. But I know for both of us, when we take that time for ourselves in the morning, the creativity throughout the day flows a lot more effortlessly. It's not so much of a push. And we like Nick mentioned before, we never want to be coming from that pushing place. We want it to kind of be open and to flow through us. So do you agree with all of that?
Yeah, I have more.
Go for it, as long as it's, you know, clean.
It's clean, sort of. I think expectations as well on yourself. I personally tend to set myself incredibly high bars where it's like, okay, I'm going to reach this point musically and I'm going to be doing this here and that there. And, you know, I have massive goals and that's all good. And it's nice to have a big vision. But I think also you kind of have to chunk it down and reverse engineer it a little bit and just take the pressure off yourself. So if that involves, just trying to think of an example, let's say you are a musician, because it's what I know, let's use that as an example, and you do want to release an album. We'll just go, well, okay, I need 10 songs, I need a producer, I need all these things. Figure out what it is that you need, a studio, how much money do you need, and just kind of reverse engineer what it will take to get there and break it into small steps so that you're not actually thinking, oh Christ, I need $50,000, I need to find a world-class producer, I need to somehow take off 3 months of work to write, go to the studio. You know, that just sounds impossible.
And overwhelming.
Overwhelming, but if you break it down into little chunks, you can totally make it happen. So I think that in itself helps reduce expectations on yourself. So you can actually it allows you to show up each day, even if in a small way, and you'll feel way better about yourself. So that was one little thing. The biggest challenge for me was when I wasn't showing up, you know, and thinking about it all day. It's like so stupid. Like
that kind of is insanity. It's like beating yourself up for not showing up and then just doing nothing about it.
Not showing up for the thing you actually want to do.
Yeah.
Like crazy. Humans are crazy.
That's the power of your bad boy.
That's resistance, big time.
That is his bad boy or mean girl and being so loud and just telling you that you're not good enough and you can't do this. Or you can't, you know, you can't take the time, or you're not creative enough, or whatever your bad boy said to you. But see the power of our ego. It's incredible. And it will stop you from being in your creative flow and being creative, because the ego can't exist when you're in your flow state.
That is the importance of a routine.
Exactly.
It's there to defeat. I know that Stephen Pressfield talks about defeating resistance, mastering the mean girl. It's the same thing. So the mean girl is in a broader context across different topics. Resistance is very much related to creativity and purpose, I think. But routine is designed to give yourself the best chance at defeating resistance.
And setting you up for success. It's setting you up, it's helping you, you know, that's what the routine is. And that's why I do those things. I find the space, I remove distractions, I, you know, sit down, I do all of those things because I'm setting myself up for success. And then at least I can't beat myself up about it because I've showed up.
And if you don't show up, do it tomorrow.
Exactly. There's always tomorrow. So is there anything else you want to add? There's been so much gold in this.
There's more.
Go for it.
I think a huge thing is that it's not just about you. You've got other people around you, whether it's children or a partner or a mother and a father, or whatever it is, you've got other people around you that also, to some extent, need because you're in a relationship. So there is a principle of fair exchange there. So you can't always be taking for the sake of your creativity and your art. You have to give as well. So I think for us personally, you know, when we're in a really good place, we always, like, stuff just flows better. And there's things that just happen. It could be your moon cycle, for example. That can sometimes just kind of just disturb the flow a little bit because things aren't as smooth as it was. So in those times, I know, and this is challenging because masculine is so stupid, and every month I go, duh, that's a time where I need to be giving you more love, more attention. And every single month I forget. Freaking retarded. Like, you know, it's so ridiculous. I can't believe still at my age I haven't figured it out.
I need to, like, write it on the wall or something.
Pretty much.
Tattoo it on your forehead.
Yes.
On this date, give more love.
Yeah. So that's, I think, taking care, especially in a romantic relationship, making sure that you're taking care of your partner in a way. It could even just be, sometimes you say to me, darling, we didn't connect this morning, you know, and all it would have taken was just to lie down and have a cuddle for 5 minutes. It doesn't have to become a massage and an epic lovemaking session. It could just be 5 minutes of cuddling. Epic lovemaking is good. It'll take you to the next level. But sometimes it's not always needed. And I think...
Or time.
Yeah, and then what happens is when you've done that, you know, at the end of each day, we sit down at dinner and we talk about what we're grateful for. We do this with Leo. Again, this is actually probably an important process too. We talk about the 3 things we're grateful for the day. We talk about our favourite part of the day. We talk about...
one thing
we could have improved, and then we acknowledge each other
for one thing.
For one thing, it's a really nice process, and the improvement. Where was I going with that? Lost my train of thought.
Oh, I'm not sure, darling.
Gratitude. Lost my train of thought. It was going to be good.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
It was.
Romantic connecting.
Yeah, I think knowing where you could have improved it's good to reflect on that, because sometimes you look back and you think, man, I really could have done more today, because that's where it was. So I love it when we do that exercise, and I have days where I struggle sometimes to list something I could have improved on. It's not that often, but occasionally I struggle, and that's when I know I've showed up. You know, because other days straight away you're like, yep, I know exactly what I did today. I could have done this. Blah, blah, blah. There's like a gazillion things. But the days where you seriously sit back, and you had one the other day, and I had one a few days ago, and I was like, wait, really struggling today. I feel like I've shown up. I did everything I wanted to do today. That's a really freaking good feeling. And a huge part of that, I think, is taking care of your partner as well. Because when you do that, it gives you complete freedom then for the rest of the day to go and be in your truest self-expression, in your creative space, in your work, whatever it is you're doing. So relationships are a massive part of it too.
And giving. That's
Giving.
what you said, yeah.
Yeah.
Giving.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Oh, wow. Let me think about that. I think also acknowledging that to create something great can also be extremely not difficult, but can be a lot of work. And that's okay. Because work, when it's your passion, even though it can be tiring and exhausting sometimes, for example, doing the Little Lover music video was a huge undertaking. In fact, we're actually doing an exclusive on that on your website. We had other exclusives, but we decided to do it here because your audience loved it so much.
You guys.
So you guys are the first to see this behind the scenes, which is pretty cool. And it shows just a bit of what goes into creating something great. I personally, maybe I'm biased, I think that music video is a timeless piece of art, and that's what I wanted to create. It's every time I watch it, I'm just so proud of it. And it was a lot of work, and it took a lot of people to pull that together, and that's totally cool. And sometimes to create something great, it may not just be this effortless process where all of a sudden it's just there. Like, certainly writing a song can be like that, but then to produce something like content, video, architecture, whatever it is you're doing, it can be, a process, and enjoy that.
Do you feel like it's ever a piece of cake? I feel like, sure, there's elements
of flow through the process.
like with me writing my book.
Yeah.
But that was a process. Like, that was a lengthy process.
Which you chunked that down. In fact, we did a process at the very beginning, which was driven by Michael Drew, who was a top book marketer, who I met years ago. And his process is to essentially chunk down the book, chunk down the chapters, chunk down the topics. And all of a sudden, we looked at it and we're like, cool, you've got 72 blog posts to write, almost, in a way. So we broke it down, and each day we took off a few of those. And it became really doable. There was like this roadmap. So I think roadmaps are really amazing.
Reverse engineering.
Reverse engineering and I don't know, I forgot this one. Being freaking organized. When your life is a mess and you're not organized, I'm telling you, it is really hard to be creative or to be successful with that creativity.
A lot of people come to me and they're like, I'm just not an organized person though. Like, my house is a mess, my calendar is a mess, my car is a mess. Is organization something, I know organization is incredibly important to creativity, but is organization something that can be learned?
Yeah.
Or,
it can be learned. It's a skill that you can foster. I think becoming Mozart is a skill which is probably rare for a lot of people. Very challenging. But Mozart, it's interesting with him because he was, sure, he might have had some innate ability, of course, but his father was a renowned composer and renowned viola, I think, player. And Mozart was exposed to that from a very young age, and his father pushed the hell out of him. And when Mozart died, his hands were crippled because he had been writing so much. I think he was in his mid-30s when he passed, something like that.
So young.
Yeah, and he had to work freaking hard at that to become Mozart. So when you look at that example, maybe not everyone could do that, but you think, if Mozart can do that, I can get organised. Seriously.
Absolutely.
And there are tools and there are things that you can do which are just available to everybody. There are systems you can use, and for us, we follow the same system. Probably me more rigorously than you do, because I have to, because the amount of stuff that's going on. And that is the process of using Getting Things Done. You can just get that book by David Allen, read it, get the newest version, I think it's Getting Things Done 2.0, and the software we use called Things. Now, without those two tools, chaos. It's chaos.
You are possibly the most organised person I know, and meticulous, and everything is, every I is dotted and every T is crossed. Have you always been like that?
I think to a degree I've always had an element of perfectionism which is not always healthy, which can be paralysing as well. I think sometimes perfectionism is fear, which can stop you moving forward. I had that written on the window, didn't I? To stop me from being such a perfectionist. I think I've had that in me, but I've had to learn strategies to be better, to be more efficient. I don't think it's innate. I think that it's a process to learn what works for you.
Comes back down to everyone being unique, finding those things that work for you. And everything that we've shared is just ideas. This isn't Bible. I want you guys to be inspired by what we've shared. Try it on for size. See how it fits for you, and then go, yep, that works, that doesn't work, whatever.
Yeah, and there's just technology in general is a really powerful thing. I mean, the way that I produce here, right in our living room, and write music is incredible. That I have this technology available to me for my creative process. You also have that available to you for every part of your life. Removing any speed bumps in your life which are going to stop you. For example, there's so many unnecessary things. Keeping your passwords in an Excel spreadsheet. The number of people I know who do that, I'm not dissing you if you do it.
You kind of are.
I'm just saying it's a road bump. It takes time to look it up. And so getting an app like 1Password, the number 1 and then password, which you get on Mac, or I think it's probably every single device, is one of the single biggest productivity increases that I've ever done, and for you as well. It just removes those things. Switching from
another block.
Switching from Mac Mail to Gmail, because Mac Mail sometimes just the servers don't connect and little things happen and it's annoying. So just removing these little blocks through the day is part of the process, and I'm somewhat fastidious and perfectionist around that sort of stuff. But if you can just do something like getting things done in one password, you've already increased your productivity by probably 100% straight away.
Great tips. Thank you, honey. Well, I am like overflowing with all of this amazing information that you've shared with the beautiful tribe here today. You know, this is our intention for this creativity masterclass, was to really inspire you to go out there, try on these things that we've suggested and see how they fit for you. There is no right or wrong. There is no rules. This is just inspiration for you to go out and try in your own life. And below this interview, we're going to share the behind the scenes creative process of Little Lover, so that you can just see how much has gone into creating this piece of timeless art, like Nick called it before. And, you know, it's not just something that was carelessly whacked together. I'm sure you can appreciate that. But just how much thought and preparation, then every little detail, you know, there's so much, from lighting to costumes to sets to everything. Hair and, yeah, you know, everything.
Getting the fringe right.
That was really important,
Wasn't
guys.
always right.
Like, that was...
After 6 showers, my hair was getting dry.
Yeah, yeah.
There is one more thing we're sharing today.
Yes, we are sharing.
I'm pretty excited about this, actually, because, again, we've decided to premiere it here. And that is the remix EP for Little Lover, the Little Lover Remixes. And this is exciting because I want to highlight one of those remixes in particular as an example of creativity and someone being in flow. So what I did was I took what's called stems. So you take the individual components of the song, so the vocal, the backing vocals, the drums, you break them up into individual tracks. And it's quite rare, but I made all those available online in SoundCloud to download, so people could actually remix the music. I didn't ask for permission. I just wanted to totally make it open source for people to use it in whatever way they wanted. Within 3 days, the first remix I got back was by a young French DJ and producer called Teemid, T-E-E-M-I-D. And speak about creativity. I mean, this kid, you know, his songs get millions and millions of plays. I'm jealous of his version. I like it more than my version. It's stunning. And he just knocked it out. Just bang. He's like, oh, I hope you like it.
Like, it was just something he was just like, yeah, I just did. And you can tell with that, he was just in total creative genius mode.
He heard the vocal. He had a moment of inspiration. He nailed it out, probably in a matter of probably a day, I imagine, and sent it to me. And now it is the first track on the remix EP, which so I've done a deal with him, and we're now releasing that properly. And to me, that's just like one of the ultimate examples of creativity and how beautiful it is to share your work, because it inspires other people. So I'm really excited to share that today, because there's lots of different remixes. There's 4 different remixes. There's also the instrumental. So I'm making the instrumental available because a lot of people want to sing this song. It's quite funny.
Karaoke style?
Yeah, a little bit of karaoke style. So I'm making...
I reckon I'm really good at it.
Especially the high bit. Really good at that falsetto, darling. So we're making that available as well.
That's not nice.
And the original. You can get it. You can get the whole remix EP on iTunes or Spotify or wherever it is. I really would, I guess, encourage you guys to share that as well. So this is a personal ask, because art is, I guess, only as good as how many people get to enjoy it and what sort of impact it has. And I feel like this music really does touch people in a way which really was a nice surprise to me. So I'd love you to share the YouTube video of the behind the scenes, and also to go to Spotify and add this to your playlist. Spotify is a funny thing; it's got fancy algorithms. So if you add it, it counts more. So go to Spotify or iTunes, and you can download it or buy it or stream it, whatever you want to do. So any support there would be greatly appreciated, because it's something I really want to get out there. I'm so proud of these remixes. They're beautiful. And there's one by an artist called Bolivian, which, will just get you dancing. It's really cool.
Yeah, my favorite is Team Ed. I absolutely love it. We bust serious moves to it, don't we?
Yeah, serious.
In the lounge room and in the car. Even Leo loves it, which is really super cute. So have a listen to the remixes and let us know which one you love the best.
Yeah.
And please share, share the videos, share the interview, share the remixes.
Ask questions.
But I want to open this up to you guys now, and seems so this was a creativity masterclass. Please leave a comment below on your creative process. Do you have one or two or maybe three things that help you get into your zone of genius? Please share them. We would love to hear your thoughts on what you do to get you in that process. Remember that so many people come here to be inspired, and your comment could really inspire someone else to try something new or explore something new. So share what helps you get into your creative zone of genius. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here again. It's an absolute pleasure. I love, you are such a massive source of inspiration and wisdom to me. And
likewise.
Thank you, darling. And I just, I know everyone will have got so much out of this. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for all your support for Little Lover. It's been really awesome, and I know your tribe's had a massive impact on the success of that. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys.